When someone does a good deed from the kindness of their heart, they do not expect anything in return. Nevertheless, life makes up for it. Sooner or later, any good deed will be paid back in full, as long as it was done with sincerity and unselfishness. Today's story is about kindness and friendship, which is hard to find these days, but when it happens, it inspires hope that not all is lost, and people are still capable of sincerely kind deeds. This is the story of two friends, two boys who were not very lucky with their parents, but were lucky to find each other. I will tell you about how they met, but then their lives took them separate ways. Will they be able to maintain their friendship? Stay tuned, I will be happy to tell you. Antonio and Carlos lived in Badajoz and were very good friends since childhood. They lived in a poor neighborhood and often went to bed hungry. Antonio grew up without a mother as she passed away when he was only 5 years old. His father started drinking alcohol and did not take very good care of his son, leaving Antonio to survive on the city streets. Carlos's mother was alive, but she worked all the time in order to support her alcoholic husband, so Carlos was also left to fend for himself on the streets. The boys often wandered around the city together and dreamed of a rich life, of a future where they would have a good job and make lots of money, helping each other, eating well, and sleeping better. They knew that in order to find a good career, they had to study hard in school. Antonio and Carlos went to a free school for the poor and were incredibly grateful for such an opportunity. In elementary school, uniforms were provided to the students for free, but the students had to provide their own uniforms later on. Carlos's mother tried to tell her husband that their son was doing well in school and would need money for a new uniform. This made his father angry, as he considered school a waste of time and money. She tried to assure his father that Carlos could earn his own money for the uniform, but this did not change the man's opinion. Antonio didn't have money for a new uniform either, so they decided to earn money together. They got jobs with a local baker who would send them out every morning with a basket of pastries to sell on the street. He paid them a percentage of the profit, and they saved every penny for new school uniforms. After they had saved about half of the needed amount, Carlos came to work very upset. He said that the night before, his father came home very drunk and took all of his mother's money after beating her badly. Carlos gave her what he had saved up in order to buy food so they wouldn't starve. Antonio didn't say anything at the time, and they just went to work. The next day, Antonio brought Carlos a package. When he opened it, Carlos was simply stunned. A new school uniform was inside. He couldn't believe that his friend would use all his money to buy him a uniform. But now, how could Antonio go to school? Antonio answered that since Carlos knew he wanted to be a doctor, it was more important for him to go to school, as Antonio wasn't sure what he wanted to do yet. Carlos assured him that they would still have time to save up money for Antonio's uniform. Then he went home to tell his mother the good news, that he would still be able to continue his studies because his good friend Antonio was so generous. His mother was happy. After a dinner of stale bread, they hung up the uniform and went to bed. The next morning, Carlos and Antonio went to work as usual. However, while they were working, Carlos's father had come home drunk and saw his new school uniform in the closet, which made him really mad. He thought they had no money to buy alcohol, so how could they afford this? In a fit of anger, he threw all of Carlos's textbooks into the fire. That evening, Carlos heard his mother crying, then decided to take his mother and leave his father. He would give the uniform to Antonio and go to work in order to support his mother. While his father slept in a drunken stupor, he and his mother quietly packed up their few things and left. Carlos met up with Antonio to return the uniform and tell him his plans. However, Antonio informed him that his mother's sister had recently found him and wanted him to live with her. Antonio had saved up money to buy a train ticket for the 15-mile trip, but decided he could walk because Carlos needed the money more. Then Carlos and Antonio parted ways. Carlos used the money to rent a small apartment for him and his mother, went to school, studied twice as diligently, and graduated with honors. Many years later, a man burst into a hospital with a boy in his arms who had been hit by a car. The boy had to have an operation, but his father was unable to pay the bill. The next morning, he was surprised to find that the entire debt had been paid with a note that said, You paid my bill many years ago when you gave the last of your money to your best friend so that he could fulfill his dream of becoming a doctor. If you can wait until this evening, let's have coffee together. Your friend, Carlos. What do you think about this incredible story about two friends? Share your opinion in the comments and click like because these boys deserve it, don't they?